This is Paul Levy here on another early morning walk. I've just gone past Holyrood Palace. Just heading. I'm not going up Arthur's Seat today. It's always something I want to do during the Fringe, if not once, maybe twice this year. And I just wanted to reflect as we start day one of the Edinburgh Fringe here in August in the UK, is to just think a little bit about the title of your show, and also what can be called the tagline, the subtitle of your show. And at a workshop that we were running for new performers at the Fringe called Hitting the Ground Running yesterday, the day before the start of the Fringe, there were flyers going around. We were looking at them, giving a bit of feedback, and you might think it's too late because they've been printed. But what's going to happen now at the Edinburgh Fringe is you're going to be handing out flyers and hopefully having conversations too with people that are going to come. It can be a bit of a false economy just giving flyers out, and particularly if your title isn't very clear, and those titles are often set months before, and even locally there's time for more conversation, so you can put a kind of title that's not very clear, doesn't say what the show is straight away, and then you get the chance to follow up with a conversation. Here you'll probably, on the Royal Mile when you're out flying, have the briefest of conversations with people, and it may simply be that there isn't a conversation, that you're handing out a flyer saying come and see this show, and that it's the tagline that's going to help to say what the show is, because quite often just a name or a bit of an intriguing title that's still not very clear can mean that people don't follow up their interest and even bother to read the flyer. So the tagline is the second thing that you're going to say about the show, and that's the bit that can draw people in. And in my case, it was interesting. I sort of broke the rules that I'm about to suggest when I did my solo show last week in Durham. My show is about debriefing being in intensive care, and the debrief is what the show is. Made a bit of use of AI by creating an art therapist. So it's a bit of a weird thing, but my tagline that seemed to get a lot of audience in, the show was called The Debrief. The tagline was AI saved my life and I'm not happy about it. And that kind of drew in a lot of people to say, well, what do you mean by that? And then I could say, this is a new piece of writing, this is a musical. It's not a musical, but it could have been. This is a stand-up comedy show, this is a storytelling theatre show. At the workshop yesterday, someone intriguingly said this is stand-up comedy mixed with physical theatre, which sets it apart from most stand-up comedy shows. You can say this is a new play based on a novel by somebody, and that might just capture their attention because they like the novelist. So the tagline suddenly gives you the I see what that's about moment. The tagline is the subtitle below the show. This is a crime thriller where you get to decide the ending in an improv show. We improvise an entire novel. This is a stand-up night where you see 3 comedians, and the problem is calling it the donkey hour just doesn't help people to know what it is. So take a look at the title of your show that you've had registered with the Fringe, that is on the front of your flyer. Just crossing the road here, we've got a lovely view of Arthur's Seat there. Take a look at it and think, will people get that straight away? Is that title going to make people want to stop for a moment and talk to you a bit more about it? And even as they walk past and maybe take a flyer and you speak after them, if you say that this is a murder mystery set on a desert island, whatever it is that you say, particularly things like this is new writing, that people like new writing at the Fringe for sure, then it's the tagline that becomes more important than the title during the Fringe. And we did a bit of creative work about it, because you can test this out on your friends, you can test it out on people in your venue, fellow performers in other shows, and just say, can I just run this by you? And if you're saying a reworked version of Macbeth for the modern age, if you say this is a piece of Buffon clown theatre coming over from Korea, part of the Korean season, that this is an award-winning piece of work that won the whatever prize, that just gives it that little bit of kudos. It's definitely that subtitle, sometimes called the tagline, that is the thing I think you should hone on day one at the Fringe. And the good thing is, if you are going out flyering or using social media to try and draw audience to your show, you can immediately see if it's working or not, to the extent that people then stop for a conversation, or you get engagements. I've got the sun rising behind me, which is why it's a little bit, well, the sun in Edinburgh, why it's a little bit unclear, and you can just see me a bit in shadow here as I'm walking into town. So you can try this out on different people. I would sit down with a piece of paper today and a cuppa, whether that's back at wherever you're staying or whether you go out and about and sit down, and try some different taglines. What's the title? I'm just thinking again, this isn't to embarrass anyone, but there was a show with a really interesting title called Murmuration. But below that was the piece of stand-up physical comedy about, and it can be then about how we all socially interact in the world. What's the cause of conflict and how can we solve it? Big political stuff. This is a political play that explores blah. Would you like to see a play that's never been at the Fringe before, that takes place completely in the dark? And you might be surprised, there's been quite a lot of those. But whatever it is, try these out. And sometimes you could even say a 45-minute improvised musical, because it's the amount of time that will draw people in. And it's because, you know, people are busy and they don't want to go to something well over an hour. I just saw a play yesterday that explores power relationships in the world. And what's interesting about that again is that's over from the United States. You might say a new play from the United States that won awards at New York something festival. Try different things. Sometimes what it's going to be the genre that gives people the aha moment. So, you know, this is a piece of aerial theatre. Sometimes it's going to be that the title's intriguing and it's not just the genre, but it's actually going to be the content of the show, and it's the subtitle that lets you know what the play or the show, the stand-up is all about. Another one, just to mention, the Atomic Cabaret always intrigues me because the performer introduces themselves as a physicist doing a late night cabaret. Now, Atomic Cabaret is a good title because it tells you it's a cabaret, but atomic doesn't really tell you much until you hear that this is a physicist and environmentalist, but particularly somebody focusing on, you know, the dangers right now of the atom bomb. And we're going to learn about it, but we're also going to sing along. And all that can be said in the tagline that makes you go, oh, now I get it. So without going on too much longer, here on the start of the Fringe, think about what the line is below your show title. Don't assume that the show title itself is going to be enough for busy people on the Royal Mile and out and about in Edinburgh taking flyers for your show, be that physically or virtually. Have a good Fringe, it's day one.